If Discord and solo, aka Vesper, is making you feel like this boss is unfair, overtuned, or Arya only, I promise you it's not. What's actually happening is that most players are fighting her wrong. And today I'm gonna break down every single move she has, how to steal your turn back, how to force shutdowns, and how to beat her consistently, even without the shield team. Now on screen are some general tips for you to keep in mind throughout the entire video. For the sake of explanations, I'm not going to explain how every team works versus the boss in great detail. Instead, what I'll do is explain the boss in great detail, then a few strategies or game plans I use per team against each boss. And as the most important reminder, I'll verbally say this. This is in-game, so assume and ensure that your units are at least sufficiently built for the teams that they just happen to be in. Don't come in here with no zero cost mumbo jumbo whatever. All right, now that we've reset the expectations, let's actually talk about the boss, because understanding Vesper's design philosophy is the key to beating her. Vesper is only weak to ether and highly resistant to ice and fire. While she's suited for anomaly agents, haha lol quote unquote, this should actually be pinpointed to a bloom type DPS. The reason for that is because Vesper is one of the most hyper aggressive bosses we have in the game. The only time she stops attacking is when you force her to, and not everyone or every team is capable of doing that. This further explains what I mean by she's catered towards the bloom type DPS, aka dishing out an absurd amount of burst anomaly damage in less than a few seconds. And so this is where most of the confusion starts. People hear anomaly boss and assume mono element or disorder, and that automatically wins, but that's not quite true here. To elaborate, there are 3 different types of anomaly damage, or rather 3 play styles that anomaly teams specialize in. Mono element, think of Jane, Piper, Grace, etc. These teams are focused on just triggering the same anomaly counter, i.e. Jane's 520,000 assault. Disorder would be Yanagi, Miyabi, Bernice, and so on. Now these teams are focused on comboing off of each other's anomaly counters, i.e. polarity disorder or clearing Miyabi's frostburn. Finally, we have a bloom, which is going to be Vivian, Grace, Arya, and so on. These teams manipulate many bursts of anomaly counter damage by copying percentages of the original damage. Just for a quick Zenless history lesson, a bloom damage debuted with Vivian, and using her kit, we can see that each element has their own additional multiplier. Every agent's of bloom is different. Vivian, Grace's, Bernice, doesn't really matter. What does matter is that the order of highest to lowest remains the same. However, due to the way that anomaly damage itself works, assaults grant the strongest of blooms in the entire game, while burn grants the weakest. This is due to the fact that a bloom takes the original instance of anomaly counter damage, then applies the formula to it. If you want to know more about anomaly, Lino has a great guide that I'll try and link down in the description below or in the little bubble icon up at the top, but it basically goes over everything you need to know about anomaly and how the numbers work. I do have the image on screen though, just in case you want to read that. Now, before anyone begins panicking in the comment section down below, this doesn't mean that regular anomaly or disorder can't beat her. It just means that their style of delivering damage isn't as naturally aligned with how Vesper behaves. If we look at Arya's actual gameplay, since she is the shield agent, her playstyle is dropping as many flying peaches like our Mika in a matter of seconds, quickly rebuilding resources, then doing it all over again for free. She has almost instant access to her most damaging move while still being able to take advantage of the other 2 anomaly attack types at any given time. Any other agent that can mock this type of playstyle is highly favorable against Vesper's own playstyle. Vesper also has the lowest defense or lower defense compared to other bosses in the game. So naturally, when you couple this with the fact that Vesper moves a lot, this becomes a problem. Thankfully, there are a number of ways to steal your turn. Some of the more obvious ones include pairing the final hit of certain skills that will inflict the impaired effect. The obvious one being successfully beating a control skill and then landing a shutdown. And then one of the not so obvious ones would be the corruption attribute counters, or like popping an anomaly, which is pretty much going to force a temporary shutdown on Vesper for about like maybe 2 or 3-ish seconds, depending on what the anomaly is. And then on top of all of that, Vesper's stage mechanic is just straight up ridiculous. Minus 40% crit damage when being attacked, which pretty much means all the time. Deploying or extending Ether Veil grants the entire team 1 Sonic Resonance, and Sonic Resonance is going to be a buff that gives you anomaly buildup by about 8% and anomaly damage by 15%. That buff can stack up to 3 times. And so this mechanic is basically trying to force players to fit Zhao or Suna onto the team, which doesn't naturally fit in most anomaly comps as it is. However, that same mechanic lets agents like Yi Xuan or even Ye Xing Wang straight up brute force their way into the clear. All right. That's enough theory crafting talk for now. Let's break her down piece by piece, because once you understand what she's actually doing, the fight slows down dramatically. Most of you will refer to this as phase 1, but these are pretty much just her normals, if you can think of them that way, or if you're familiar with fighting games. These are her basic attacks, right? Things that she does that lead into something else, or she just does them by herself. They're not as threatening, but can still do a lot of damage. First up, we have Stroke the Big Tree. Oh, I forgot to mention, guys, I'm a fighting game player. My brain is naturally going to think of fighting games when I think of these moves. I named all the moves. The move names are completely irrelevant. Just as long as you understand what I'm talking about, which there are visuals that will be on the screen, you're good. Do not fret about the names of the moves. I don't care if you want to call it Jiggle Wiggle Mahiggle Diggle. I don't like, whatever you want to call it, bro, it's fine. Just as long as you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Stroke the Big Tree. Vesper is going to release a purple void slash that leads into a 2-piece combo attack. Ideally, you are going to dodge forward in order to guarantee the hit on your assist follow-up just before you parry the next attack. This is going to help you optimize the most damage during that particular opportunity. After that, we have the double slash, which is basically Discordant solo launching 2 horizontal slash attacks, both of which can be parried. This is an extremely telegraphed attack. Now, parrying this attack is going to be the most safe option, but dodging gives you the opportunity to build more anomaly meter and inflict an attribute counter. At the moment, my testing is still slightly inconsistent, but it's more consistent that this happens than it is inconsistent that it doesn't happen. When you trigger certain anomalies, right now I've done Shock, I've done Flinch, and I've done Corruption. When triggering these anomalies, they can temporarily stun her for about 2 to 3 seconds, giving you another opportunity to get out more damage. Now, why that's important, especially when you're playing anomaly teams, because doing stuff like this is how you don't miss your anomaly attacks. I've seen a lot of people who play Alice, or for whatever reason are bringing Miyabi, and they're using their enhanced basic attack and completely whiffing the big hit. If you use methods like this, you can actually stop her temporarily, which is long enough for you to get the big hit off. The better your execution, the better you are at dishing out damage. After that, we have the reverse slash. Very simple, single horizontal slash, nothing crazy, just parry or dodge it. Next is going to be a one-handed slash. Vesper is going to swing the guitar blade upwards in an underhanded style twice. Each attack gives its own parry flash, which allows you to mix and match whether you want to do a dodge counter into the damage or you want to play it safe and just stay with 2 parries. Again, finding different ways to maximize that damage, especially if you're struggling to get that 20k, this is going to help you a lot. For next normal, I'm calling Mad Love Discordant. One of my favorite moves in the game, Vesper starts a puree from the ground to open up a slashing combo. Now, the initial slash can be dodged or it can be parried, but if you dodge it, there's a frame trap that she naturally does before leaping into the air for a final slash. Now, that final slash can be parried, so you're still technically safe after the frame trap hit, but the slash originally should be parried for better positioning, days build up, and it's safer. Now, in the event you're able to execute assist counter successfully, this boss is going to get deleted. Assist counters are not the same thing as dodge follow-ups or assist follow-ups. Assist counters are something that I know mobile players struggle to do because it's just really hard to do on the phone, but it's one of the more advanced tech or advanced mechanics that are in the game. We as creators, shout outs to Azrael who originally found this out, discovered this during beta, CBT2 or CBT3. It's been in the game since then. We've talked about it. It's been one of the things that, you know, people kind of try and throw under the rug, but now the game has officially put it in the tech list, like in the mechanics, actually in there under advanced something. Maybe my editor can help me out and put that part on the screen, but you can go practice this. Why I'm bringing this up is because assist counters basically give you the effect of a dodge counter, the follow-up, and the parry. You get all the benefits from doing both defensive maneuvers. This is not normal. So in the event you're able to do the dodge and you get the dodge counter, that's free damage. And you get the parry, that's also daze, which then leads into an assist follow-up, which again is more damage. So you basically double down on your options. The last hit is going to be called Chemical Love. Vesper is going to leap backwards like Eno from Guilty Gear, and she strums 3 guitar notes your way. Each of them can be dodged. Follow up by a roundhouse into a cool looking axe kick. The roundhouse can be parried, the axe kick cannot, but if I'm not mistaken, if you parry the roundhouse, it automatically parries the axe kick. Going back to what I said earlier about assist counters and the dodge counter follow-ups. Why is all that stuff so important, EO? Why do you keep stressing that? Because if you're struggling to clear or just you want more of a score, it's important that you understand how to maximize your damage opportunities. Vesper is a very aggressive boss. She is always attacking, which means she is not trying to give you any leeway. She wants you to have no room to attack her at all. That is one of the reasons why this boss is actually a boss fight, and it's so cool. You as the player have a lot of other options that you can use from the mechanics in the game that you need to, I guess, practice or excel at that allow you to fight back just as aggressively. And if you shut her down, funny that we're going to talk about that in the next scene. Anyway, if you shut her down, that's more options for you to get free damage. And once you survive her openers, she transitions into her first control skill, or her control phase. And this is your first major opportunity to flip the momentum. Handling control skills are the most important aspect of the entire fight. Do not miss a single one of these. Not only are these where your performance points lie, but this is the longest pause in movement you will get from Vesper during the entire fight, outside of a stun window, of course. You need the shutdown. If you don't have the shutdown, your only other option to get high enough damage for the score is to just straight up brute force it with raw damage, which most of the teams in the game right now just don't have. Your first indicator for this is going to be where she does some audio quote, I don't know, something about how it's time to party, Vesper's time is whatever, right? She's gonna do this. She's gonna complete a charge. You'll know she's charging because she stands still and purple is being strummed along her guitar. There's going to be a short purple flash before she dashes towards you. You can dodge this. It does nothing for you. You can get hit by this and it still does nothing for you. Getting hit or dodging this part doesn't matter. What matters is the next part, the control phase. Everything on the screen turns like darkish purple, and you know that you're in the control phase because the only options you have are to dodge or parry. You can't do anything else. Now, the control phase itself is literally just playing a rhythm beat game. All you have to do is match the beat. However, I understand that's pretty difficult for some people to do, especially when you don't play with music. So I have visual cheat codes that you can use so that you never I told you guys I did work for this guy. You will never miss a single control phase if you follow these cheat codes. First cheat, if you're looking at the parry, right? Look at the assist button in the bottom right corner. When it flashes active, press the button and you'll successfully parry. The parry window is extremely lenient. I mean, like super lenient. You almost can't mess it up. If you enter a flow state, matching the beat is a fun option that becomes second nature, and then you won't have to look at the screen anymore. Now, if you're attempting to dodge her attacks, the timing is actually much later than a parry. The trick to dodge, aka the second cheat code, is that as soon as the sword looks like it's about to connect with your agent, that's when you press the dodge button. The dodge window is extremely tight. I cannot explain the flow state here because you either hit it or you don't. But something really cool, which more fighting game tech incoming, Zenless has option selects. I know someone's gonna get mad at me about that, but it's real, it's true. I even verified it. I double checked with my boys and I'm like, yo, is this an option select? And they're like, yeah, that sounds like an option select, right? Like, okay, anyway, point being is that option select, you can see the FGC glossary thingy on the screen right now, whatever, or you can look it up, it's fine. Now, I might be thinking of something different, but I'm almost positive I'm not. TLDR, if you dodge and parry together, so one, then two, like immediate, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, you can actually cheat the control system or the control skill to win no matter what. If you dodged at the right time, then you get the dodge and the parry doesn't come out. If you miss the dodge due to poor timing, then the parry comes out and it protects you anyway. It's super dumb, but it's so fun to get hype about. This is why I love fighting game stuff in my games. Finally, successfully hitting the finishing move will apply the shutdown, which is what you want. For the second control skill, Vesper has 2 to 3 audio quotes she announces while summoning a giant marionette on stage behind her. It's another rhythm game with a funky rift. You can use the same parry cheat from the first control skill as well as another purple flash indicator, but that's only on the first swing. After that, you need to work on learning the timing. Now this one is a little different. When going for the dodge parries, the timing is slightly earlier than the dodge in the control skill one, but that's only because she swings a little bit faster. The trick is to dodge as soon as the sword looks like it's about to connect with your agent's head. And again, dodge window is extremely tight. The tech might work here. I've gotten it a couple times, but I'm so afraid of messing it up that I don't want to tell you guys to do it. But if you do it, hey, then it works for you. You know what I mean? Anyway, the final hit from the marionette is actually delayed. Haha, Elden Ring, right? Because like Zenless and whatever. Anyway, this move doesn't follow the same timing as the previous 4 attacks. However, if you pay attention just close enough, you can see there's a small purple flash as she's diving down. That is your time to parry or dodge for the shutdown attack. Now keep in mind, that flash is almost instant, and it's easier to use her diving down animation as a visual cue instead. Now after control phase 2, this is where the fight stops being a 1v1 and it turns into a 2x KO tag team attack. I think this part of the fight is actually really cool and honestly makes me feel like Vesper is one of the best boss fights we have in the entire game. That's just from a mechanical level though. Unfortunately, there isn't really a set, only this attack is going to trigger the marionette swinging her giant sword. Any attack that Vesper does can be followed up by a gigantic slash from marionette. Vesper will 1000% try to catch you slipping by hitting you with a just frame attack after the big slash. They basically cover each other's blind spots, so you have a harder time hitting Vesper for free. This is, coincidentally, the final portion of the fight where most players get frustrated, simply because they can't properly respond to Vesper imitating Melania from Elden Ring. Again, Elden Ring. I should really go play Dark Souls, huh? Moving along, almost immediately after her first control skill, Vesper will start using the stage itself to try and kill you. This next move I like to call Play My Shit! Shout outs to my boy Afro Senju. Anyway, Vesper teleports to the middle of the stage and plays a heavy rift that sends out 3 grounded shockwaves before leaping into the air for a final shockwave. I've seen her do 2 variations of this attack where she doesn't jump. That could be because I just bullied her with 5+ anomaly triggers at once, but the tests were a little inconsistent, so don't quote me on that. Each wave can be dodge countered if your timing and distance are properly spaced. Her only other stage skill after that is some musical chairs bullshit, where she summons 10 music notes around the stage that are basically mines. Her following attacks will all try to trap you between the notes, and the explosion of the notes can be dodged, but pay attention to your cooldowns. If you already dodged twice, you won't be able to dodge her incoming follow-up attack or the note explosion that triggers because you dodged into another note. Lastly, these next attacks are the ones that actually matter for the bulk of the fight. If you learn nothing else from the guide, learn how to handle these. Finisher attacks are the second most important aspect based on my own testing. Just by parrying the actual finisher, you can inflict impair on Vesper, which grants you around 4 seconds of immobility, not yours, hers. First up is Void Stinger. Vesper opens the combo with a Dante style stinger from literally nowhere. She follows up with 3 extra slashes that can be freely parried or dodged. Only 2 of these attacks actually matter to parry. The 4th slash total, which is like Void Stinger, the initial stinger, and then 3 slashes after that. But the number is assuming she starts this attack from neutral. If she combos into this attack, and yes, she can combo her moves, then you need to parry the multi-void slash thing she starts doing. You'll know what it is because she teleports from every side of the screen to hit you. If you parry this move, it will auto parry every other slash afterwards until she spawns from the air. The falling slash is the second move that you need to parry, and it needs to be parried. Do not dodge this move. If you dodge it, you don't get the impair. You need to parry it in order to inflict the impair. She stays there, you do whatever, and you get the damage. If you dodge it, especially if Witch Time doesn't activate, then she's free to do whatever she wants. Her second finisher attack is going to be Void Scar, where Vesper is going to reverse spin into an upward slash before twirling in place and making the tip of her guitar glow. I bet she's never told you that before, huh? After that, 3 wind scars are coming your way. Now, a parry flash will happen before she starts throwing purple wind scars at you, and each one of these can be dodged or parried to be fair, but it's easier to dodge from left to right instead of back and forth. That way, if your cooldown is still active, you should be able to react in time to get out of the way. In the event you parry all of them though, parry the final hit. Like, you just have to be prepared for it. Parrying one Void Scar will parry all of the Void Scars, but the final hit is an actual stinger. Again, Dante's attack. He is going to charge directly at you. You need to parry this because why? Yay, we get more impairs. The frick, yeah, I'm right, impair, that's what it is. Yeah, we're inflicting impairs, yay, you want that. Our last finisher attack is some Pokemon stuff where I choose you Vesper. Vesper backflips onto a self-created stage in midair before summoning Phantom Vespers to perform different attacks against you, each with different dodge timers. Yes, I know that's crazy, but it's really cool until you get hit by it, then it's not cool anymore. Now this move, you have infinite parry available to use, which means it does not cost any assist points in order for you to parry anything. However, if you try and master your way out of this parry, you're gonna get cooked because one of them is gonna clip you and then you can't unparry the missed parry. So like whatever, just try and time it, but whatever. Only the 5th hit matters, okay? That's really all it is. On the 5th hit, Vesper performs another falling slash, again, that needs to be parried. Don't dodge it. You parry it, you inflict impair, she stays immobile for a couple seconds, and then you beat her ass. Finally, after all of that, we can address the elephant in the room, team viability. Contrary to what many others are saying, Vesper is not Aria only. As I mentioned earlier, it's more like she's a Bloom flavored, and there's a difference, which after spending all this time studying the boss, I think that's fair. Designing a boss that favors a mechanic is normal. We have a handful of bosses that are strong or weak to certain mechanics, and we have plenty of agents that abuse any of those given mechanics. Miyabi, Evelyn, Yanagi, Astra, Hugo, whatever, doesn't matter. The issue isn't that a Bloom is strong here. The issue is that most players were never given a reason to deeply understand how a Bloom actually works, and the fact that those same devs have not properly equipped a majority of players with solid answers to a new boss like this. Out of the 40-something agents we have available in the game, only 8 of them are in that favorable category. Despite that, there's actually a decent amount of teams that can appropriately handle Vesper and a few more that can brute force it. This is a boss guide though, not a team guide. So I'm not gonna walk through every team's 3-minute routing. Instead, I'll just establish what their win con is and some of the more effective ways to beat Vesper using them. First up is the best in slot team, being the Angels of O-Block. I feel like I don't really need to explain it. Like, you literally just flying peach everything and it dies like that. Come on, guys. Next, we have alternative teams or flex teams, whatever you feel comfortable calling them, which I would say are probably about a medium difficulty if we're comparing it to how easy the Angels of O-Block are. And the first team that I'm going to have up, or rather the first core, if you will, is going to be an Anomaly main DPS, Astra, and then Vivian. The actual Anomaly DPS probably doesn't matter, but it probably matters for you depending on what's on your account. Because you're using Astra and Vivian and you're able to abuse of Blooms, you are going to pick the Blazing Sweep buff. Now, obviously in the future, this might change depending on whatever the buff is, but as of right now, you're going to pick the Blazing Sweep buff because it benefits the whole team. From what we've tested, the Astra plus Vivian core is actually stronger than just adding Zhao into your Anomaly comps. This is, of course, based on the fact a player understands how to properly use Astra's EX skills to trigger the strongest Bloom attribute on the team. Along with the benefit of Astra's ability to constantly give each agent quick assist, this turns into a situation where Vivian always has a feather shard to use, or feather token, feathered bloom, whatever the feather thing is called. Generally, your game plan with this core is to play around the strongest attribute of Bloom. For example, when using Jane or Alice, the goal is to properly save your energy for EX skills that trigger a Bloom. Those Blooms need to be Assault versions since they'll provide the strongest mini burst damage in the combo. Players with mid to high execution benefit a lot from this playstyle since they're able to time anomaly counters on top of each other for large bursts of damage. Combos can start off pretty simple, but obviously they're going to get more intricate once you're adding new team members, which turns into team rotation. Now, contrary to the Astra plus Vivian core is going to be the Zhao and Yanagi core. This team doesn't benefit from a Blooms at all, but tries to make up for the difference by the amount of disorders that they can dish out. Thanks to Zhao helping activate the Aether Veil buff, the entire team benefits from the Sonic Resonance buff too. Ideally, you play Zhao with the least amount of fill time as possible because she's not really doing anything else. And generally, your game plan with this core is to take advantage of both the stage buff and the Shatter Boon buff with the strongest elements available to you. For example, when using Alice and Yanagi, we're able to build up both physical and electric anomaly consistently fast. Then, with the right combinations of techniques, like shoulder to shoulder, we can frequently deal defense shredding combo attacks. One of the teams that I do want to mention that was actually really fun and something that I talked about over on my Twitter was Grace, and I mentioned that Grace was actually a sleeper pick. Grace, Astra, and Vivian. Now, the main objective of this team is to bloom on Ether as many times as possible. Vivian allows this to happen by using Grace's EX skill multiple times throughout the fight. Whenever you proc an Ether anomaly, you want to use EX specials with Grace or your supports to help proc Vivian's blooms. When Grace can proc shocks on the enemy, you want to get back to corruption as fast as possible to proc more blooms or disorders because they're the strongest attribute of the two. Now, if we're looking at this just from like a Zhao versus Astra perspective, Zhao is just a little slow in proccing a blooms for Vivian and only provides quick assist from her defensive assist or her EX. Use these to help Vivian get back her feathers. Astra, on the other hand, allows you to purposely trigger a blooms as long as you have energy to perform an EX special quick assist. She also builds up Ether Anomaly and can help Vivian trigger corruption off field, as well as giving free stacks to Vivian due to the quick assist themselves. So it's not really a matter of like dealer's choice, like, oh, one's, this or that, or who do I feel comfortable playing. It's that Astra is just generally better with the Vivian core, and Zhao is if you don't have the Astra Vivian core. Zhao also is the only thing in this case giving you the buff, but whatever. Next, I got something for my free-to-play players who, we already talked about Zhao, so like, free-to-plays are gonna have a harder time. The free-to-play team, which I'm assuming is a team that just has nothing, right, is extremely hard. As of right now, the free-to-play variants for these teams are extremely more difficult to play, and it's less that they're harder to play and more like they lack the outright power to carry forward on a low investment account. So that looks something like Piper, Zhao, and then whatever sub-anomaly you want. Piper needs to be extremely well built since she's the main damage dealer on this team. Her ability to trigger double blooms, take advantage of disorders, or even stack up assaults in a mono physical team is really good. Each of her better partners requires you to play with a higher execution than normal though. Vivian, Yanagi, even Yuzuha. And if you're using Yuzuha for a hyper carry, then everything is even more dependent on Piper's performance overall. Now see, Piper's gameplay is usually dependent on who you bring as the third agent for the team. Did you bring Yuzuha? Okay, well then you're gonna want to abuse Piper's dash cancel combos as often as possible. What if you brought Vivian? Okay, same thing. Abuse Piper's dash cancel combos timed approximately with the strongest bloom attribute. And you also can't burn excessive meter. But what if you chose Yanagi? Well, then you're going to want to build assault and shock close together so you're able to take advantage of max damage disorders as much as possible. And I promise you, doing that is a lot more difficult than it sounds. Another free-to-play variant is one that's really fun, and I've seen a lot of people responding to my Twitter with this particular team: Grace, Zhao, and Rina. With this team, Grace performs closer to a hyper carry style where she mostly cares about herself instead of working with Vivian to get the stronger blooms. Since the team is practically all electric, your form of damage isn't just big burst, but an almost 100% uptime of shock DOT. The moment Grace inflicts shock, Vesper will start taking permanent damage, and with Rina on the team, she'll naturally extend that through her passive abilities. This team is a lot more simple to understand, but has a much higher execution barrier to provide the strongest results. A couple things to note about the team is that before using your ultimate with Grace, you need to use Arena EX and then ult before a new shock is applied. A bloom happens, rinse, wash, repeat, you know the drill. The next thing is that this team gets stronger and easier to play the more mindscapes you have on Rina or Grace, which is perfect for a lot of you guys because you might still be free to play and we all lose our 50-50s. I have a M5 Rina and an M5 Grace, but I have like an M1 Lycon, right? And you might be in a similar situation, which definitely helps you out. The last thing here is that Zhao is here for the Ether Veil buff and the attack increase, which will help with shocks. Now, if it's possible, you could also consider building her with a semi-impact build to help secure an extra stun during the fight. You will lose out on whatever her HP values are bringing to the table, but that third stun might be more beneficial to you than maximizing Zhao's buff. There's also a little bit of a more advanced technique. I really wouldn't depend on it, but it does happen, where you can time more anomalies and disorders around Zhao randomly getting freezes. It's just a little bit of extra damage. Finally, we have teams that are technically not supposed to work because the game said so, but they work. These are what I consider the brute forcers, and I'd probably say they're around like medium difficulty. So I think all of us already know this by now, but YSG, aka Ye Shun Wang, Dai Lin, and then some Veil spawn, Zhao or Suna, doesn't really matter. Based on general results of the community, any variant of Ye Shun Wang's team continues to brute force content that is not specifically catered towards her. Despite the negative 40% crit damage debuff she receives from Discord and solo, YSG is naturally the only attack agent that utilizes ether veils in the entire game. Her self-buffing, along with the team's buffs and the Shatter Boon buff, pretty much allow Ye Shun Wang to mash buttons without thinking and still cross the 20k point threshold. Then, due to her own aggressive playstyle, this team's game plan is typically to match Vesper's energy. You really only care about hitting the parries that will give you impair, as well as making sure you don't miss any of your big hits when she flies in the air or teleports to the void. This next team is sick as f. To my own surprise, the newly reworked Haramasa is performing phenomenally against bosses lately, thanks to a number of new changes like reworked Lycon, Zhao being free, more attack-oriented bosses, and so on. The crit damage debuff doesn't seem to affect Haramasa as much as other agents either, due to the fact he gives himself so much crit damage in the first place. The Ether Veil from Zhao or Suna will also help a character like him, since he benefits from both attack and anomaly function. Now, the changes to Lycon's core passive that lets him boost every other attribute except ice is also a nice touch to our teams now. His primary role should be staying on field to stun, but what helps out a lot now is whenever you need to switch into Haramasa to apply quivers or to use them, Lycon will continue attacking beside you to keep up the days. And so with this team, our game plan is taking advantage of the fact Haramasa gets free damage from everything happening on the field. Every time Shatter happens, that's a free full set of quivers. Once Haramasa builds up enough anomaly to apply shock, that's another set of quivers. And of course, anytime you stun Vesper, free quivers. Pair this up with his new kit changes that help him use, produce, and overstock his own quivers, and you've theoretically got yourself a dash slinging slasher with Ethereal Cancer. With this team in particular, you're able to hit your first stun consistently within the first 30 seconds of the fight. This gives you plenty of time to build resources thanks to the control skills she does, and sets you up with a solid 7 to 10k points before the second control phase even happens. A lot of the anomaly counters might seem random when you're playing, but you can easily pay attention to when they trigger and then use your quivers appropriately. Combining your strategy around pairing the finisher attacks will help you lock down Vesper thanks to Impair 2. It's generally good for players who don't want to watch her dashing around the screen. And by no means am I going to take credit for this team, because this was shown to me and I'm going to show it to you guys. This team is from another creator. I believe he's a Japanese creator named Help. I'll have a link to the description down below. The run was awesome. It was amazing, guys. Go watch it, show support, give him love, tell him I sent you over there. Beautiful stuff. Ultimately, Vesper feels overwhelming because she never stops moving, but here's the truth. She only moves until you make her stop. Every shutdown, every impaired state, every forced opening, that's your opportunity to take control back and make her hurt. She isn't unfair, she's just aggressive. And once you understand her patterns, her punish windows, and your team's win conditions, this fight becomes deliberate instead of chaotic. It's also extremely fun. Take your time. Deadly Assault is not going anywhere. I mean, minus the 12-day thing, but that's not the point. Build your agents, practice your control phases, and come back when you're ready. You don't need perfect teams, you just need the right plan. Smell you later.